Are the American people fit to govern themselves, to rule themselves, to control them? I believe they are.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. There is the love of God. And if you have any doubt concerning the love of God, look at the cross.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
We establish no religion in this country, nor will we ever. We command no worship. We mandate no belief. But we poison our society when we remove its theological underpinnings. We court corruption.
Use the talk back button so I can hear you.
Bereft of belief.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome again into American Heritage Live right here on 97.7 The Peach. Hope you're having an awesome morning. Beautiful Sunday morning at 11 a.m. If you're going to and from church, you're listening to American Heritage Live, or maybe you're out for some brunch. My name is Jeff DeShazo, host of the show. Across from me is my good friend and longtime co-host with me, Ronald Meyer, affectionately known as Ron. How are you, sir?
Well, some would refer to me as Ronnie, too.
Or Ronnie.
Only the family calls me that.
Yes. Well,
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. My sister still calls me Ronnie.
Ronnie, but your legal name is Ronald.
That's right. Only my mother would refer to me with that.
So you're in trouble if someone calls you Ronald.
That's right. When somebody calls me that, I stand to attention.
That's right. And like my name is Jeff, so when someone calls me Jeffrey, something bristles on the inside of me like I'm going to the principal's office.
Did your mother yell at you when she was mad? Did she yell out, Jeffrey, do this? Or did she say, Jeff?
Yes. It was...
yes, she did not, or yes, she did? Or...
You take it either way.
Okay,
yeah, but no, I got in my share of trouble growing up. I was quiet as a kid. I didn't say a whole lot. I think for the first 30 years, I didn't know I could talk. No, I'm kidding. But when I was a kid, I was quiet, and when my mother would call my name, I wouldn't answer. I'd be in the next room. I figured she could come over and get me.
It's amazing what therapy's done.
That's right.
With me, it was always be a nice boy.
Right.
Be a good boy.
Be a nice boy. Yeah.
Be a good boy.
Well, I think this generational thing. Oh, sure. Yeah. It was. I don't remember every detail, obviously, but childhood memory is very sharp. But we want to open the show, and as always, thank our sponsors because they help make the show happen. And they are Jim King of Hedges and Highways Ministry, Brad Phillips and Homewood Auto Body Specialists, Sonny Maynard with Hometown Lenders, Jason Ingram with USC Title of Alabama, and myself, I'm a sponsor too, Jeff DeShazo with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. And we want to tell you who's coming on the show today, and that is Marty Connors. He's a political analyst for our show, one of them, one of our favorites, and he's also president of the Birmingham International Center. He's also chairman. Ron, we got to remember this. I forget sometimes, but Marty is chairman of the Irish Cultural Society. And so I need to ask him, remind me to ask him if he knows a good Irish joke that we can share over the air.
Now you're putting
we're qualifying over the air there. And
I'd
we
be
want to
careful.
mention next week, Ron was instrumental in getting this to happen. But next week we have a very special guest, and that is Congressman Spencer Backus for Alabama's 6th District. Very much looking forward to having him on the show.
Yes, he's
It's
a
going to be good.
Wonderful gentleman. Wonderful.
Long-time career, so we're going to look forward to an interview there. So just make a note on your calendar. And but no, it's I think it's important. This show, we want to remind folks what this show is about. This show, the goal of this show is to educate and inform and entertain, but basically to remind Americans of what we once knew in school, and that's what we were once taught as kids, that God had his hands on the formative years of this nation, and God influenced the development of this nation. But however, in the last several generations, going back to the 30s, that has been systematically removed and untaught from our schools. And kids today, the modern generations, have no idea that this was once common knowledge in history.
And you're finding that history is being changed.
Oh, yeah, revisionist history.
Right,
big time.
and it goes back again to the they, Jeff. Who are they that mess around with our society, and rules and regulations come down the pike restricting people from worshiping even now. You know, you're going to have restrictions someday on pastors, I think.
Well, it's already starting to happen, you know, in Texas. And just a couple of months ago, the mayor of Houston basically was demanding notes of sermon notes and then private communications of the pastors. And to the credit, the Houston Society of Pastors and around the nation just began to flood the mayor's office in their outcry against that. That's censorship.
I think the Attorney General also stepped in on that, if I'm not mistaken.
If he did, good for him. I wasn't aware of that, but good for him if he did.
Yeah.
That's important. But basically, Ron, our show is to just sound the cry and just sound the alarm and to get folks stirred up and to realize what they stand to lose. If we do lose freedom of speech, if we do lose our constitutional rights as guaranteed in the Bill of Rights, if we lose those things, we can function. There is a mentality, Ron, that says, if it doesn't affect me, why bother? But that's the problem. These violations of personal freedoms that the Bill of Rights talks about, they do affect you.
That's right.
Monday through Sunday. That's why we have to be informed. We have to be aware. And when it's time to vote, as we've seen in the midterm elections, and there was an outpouring of support, we can make a difference.
That's absolutely right.
We can make a difference. We can. It's not true that what you do or don't do doesn't have any bearing on Washington. That is not true. You can have an effect on what happens in Washington.
Now we'll see where we go from here.
That's right. Yeah. With the new Congress coming in, the new Republicans now in the majority, as everyone knows, in the Senate, and they've increased their majority by a larger margin since the 30s. World War II in the House. We'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll see what happens when they do that.
It's their opportunity to show that they can govern.
Exactly right.
And not tear each other apart, that they can be responsible to the needs of the people. And it's up to them, you know.
Yeah, it will be, and I think they're demonstrating so far. They're saying the right things, but we'll see. Now, on the other side of the break, we'll be bringing in our special guest, Marty Connors, political analyst and president of the Birmingham International Society, always a favorite on the show. And you're listening to American Heritage Live. Don't go away, folks. Leave it right here. Jim King is a concerned American and one of our sponsors and friends here on American Heritage Live. Jim is on the board of the Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry. They provide adults and teens leaving prison with assistance in these areas: counseling, support groups, assistance in finding housing and employment, food and clothing and education. Right now, they're raising funds for gift bags, which includes items not provided in prisons. These items include toothpaste, washcloth, shaving cream, soap, and shampoo. It is amazing how many are in prison without any connection to family or friends. These gift bags will lift their spirits and allow them to feel support from a ministry that will help them once they get out. Hedges and Highways is a 501c3 organization, so all contributions are tax deductible. At the moment, their goal is to raise $20,000 for the gift bags, and they need your help. Please make checks payable to Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry, P.O. Box 112075, Birmingham, Alabama 35211. Or call Director Lois Gardner for more information. That number is 205-516-5634. 205-516-5634. Please call them today. Hi, everybody. This is Jeff DeShazo, host of American Heritage Live. I'd like to tell you about my real estate business with Keller Williams Realty. For the past 17 years, I have been serving the greater Birmingham area. When it comes to life's experiences, few areas give more satisfaction than owning your own home. This is a part of the American dream. Perhaps you own a home and would like a free comparative market analysis before you list it to sell. Or you may need to downsize, or need a larger home. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or considering buying a second home for your family vacations, whatever your needs are, I invite you to call me today at 205-223-7653, or you can visit my website at jeffdeshazo.com. That's Jeff, DESHAZO.com, and there you can request free listing alerts for any houses you like to be sent to you. I'd also like to send you my free mobile phone app for your smartphone, where you can search for houses over your phone. Please call me today at 205-223-SOLD. That's 205-223-7653. 223-7653. And together, we'll make real estate your estate.
A thousand times I failed, still your mercy remains. Should I stumble
And welcome back in to American Heritage Live. My name is Jeff DeShazo, host of the show. My co-host is with me, Ron Meyer. And we want to announce at this point that you can catch up on our shows that are archived on our Facebook page. That's American Heritage Live. Just look for the YouTube tab. And if you've missed shows, I want to go back and re-listen or forward those, do that. You'll enjoy going through and browsing through the archive there. And this will be a show that you'll want to catch because our very special guest, a frequent guest on our show as one of our political analysts, is Marty Connors. He is also president of the Birmingham International Center. And we forget sometimes, Ron, he is chairman of the Irish Cultural Society. So we want to make sure that Marty does tell us a good Irish joke sometime during the show. Welcome back, Marty.
Clean Marty.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to give me an hour or two to think of one I might be able to say.
Yeah. Good to hear your voice, Marty. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, you too. Happy New Year. Bowl games notwithstanding.
Yeah, exactly. We Alabama took a beating in the bowl games.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Boehner and all that. And by the way, I'm originally from, Dallas, Houston, Louisville, but I spent my high school years in Cincinnati, just about 5 miles south of Boehner's district. So I know that area quite well and the culture of that area. But I played high school football there. And
Did you?
And we were like the number 2 team in the Cincinnati area in 1973. And so most of the guys that graduated from the football team sent their kids to Ohio State. So I cannot tell you the grief that I have.
I can imagine. Well, yeah, Auburn and Alabama bit the dust, and who saw that coming?
I know we got to get to politics, but probably the best put down I got from one of my friends from Ohio State was, "Hello, I'm Rob Lowe." and then it says, and the second line was, "Hello, I'm SEC West Rob Lowe." Don't be like me. I mean, it was painful.
Hey, look, it could be worse, Marty. I'm a New York Knickerbocker fan. They're 5-30 right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, as you know, the landscape changed in the midterm elections, and a lot of people were hopeful, thought it would happen. They're watching now to see the Republicans are doing. Now we're hours away where the majority is happening. So now that we've seen the results, Marty, I just want to open it up by asking you kind of the usual question you'll get asked a lot with the supermajority that's going on, the almost, not quite, veto-proof majority that Republicans have in the Senate. Well, just kind of bird's eye view first. What do you think the next 6 months is going to look like realistically, you think, as far as now that the Senate is kicked in with the Republicans?
Okay, yeah, we're talking the 114th Congress, and in the House, you're looking at a Republican majority, and don't ask me to remember the numbers, but it's the Republican majority is the widest majority that's been seen by either party in the House since World War II.
Right.
So technically, the Republicans in the House can do about anything they want. You're 6 short of a veto-proof Senate. And I don't want to get too much involved in the process, but to understand how Boehner and McConnell think, you have to think process, not just ideology. Okay. So anyway, so you're looking at a 6 vote short of a veto-proof in the Senate. So you have to, if you want to get something done, and gosh, I hate to sound like a moderate. I'm not, okay? I'm a Tea Party Republican. But if you want to get something done, you're going to have to get something where you can get ultimately 6 Democrats to come over and override any presidential veto. So I think what you're going to see is a whole bunch of first down. But I don't, and a good long drives, but I don't think you're going to see any Hail Mary touchdowns.
What does that mean? I mean,
okay.
For instance, the XL pipeline issue, Marty.
Right.
Are they going to be able to override a presidential veto on that?
I think on Keystone they're going to be able to do that, and
Wow.
I think on this fast trade agreement, which actually empowers the presidency more, it allows the president to make quicker decisions on foreign trade policies, so long as those decisions are in concert with Congress. I think they'll pass that because the president will like that. Corporate tax reform is going to get a little dicey. I want to talk about that more in detail later. And I think on the Obamacare issue overall, I'm all for symbolism. Don't get me wrong. I think sometimes it's important to have
that can be important.
Yeah, because you want to get people on record, okay? But,
right.
But as far as getting something for the coming election, but as far as actually repealing Obamacare, and please don't shoot the messenger, okay? But as far as absolute repeal of Obamacare, I just don't see it. And the reason I don't see it is because I don't think you're going to get 6 votes from Democrats in the Senate. Maybe. We certainly should test it, in my view. But I think what you're going to more likely see is a elimination of the medical device tax and perhaps some softening of employer mandates and penalties for individuals, things that are popular among the public that Obama may or may not veto.
So parts of it.
Parts. First downs, not touchdowns.
How about where does the courts play into this Obamacare situation, Marty?
Well, I don't have the exact date when they're going to meet again, but this is very important because the whole infrastructure of Obamacare is based on the notion of state exchanges. And I can't remember the number, but somewhere around 30-some-odd states just said no to building a state exchange. The law, in my view, clearly says that subsidies to people who are trying to get Obamacare only applies to state exchanged customers. In other words, if Alabama had a state exchange and I were to apply for Obamacare through that state exchange and I had a certain income level, then I would be eligible for a federal subsidy. But only if it went through the state exchanges, according to the actual verbiage of the law. What the Obama administration has done is ignored that portion of the law and just said, well, we'll give you a subsidy even if you went through the federal exchange. My hunch is that the Supreme Court is going to say that's not what the law said. Either rewrite the law or it's unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, what you've just done is ripped the infrastructure out of the entire system. So I could see more likely the courts destroying Obamacare than the legislative body, although the legislative body will pick it like a carcass, like a vulture on the side of the road.
Well,
how that plays out, Marty, how long do you think is going to roll out, or the time go by where that process begins to be obvious? In other words, how soon is this going to come back in the courts? Because I agree, I think the courts is going to play a pivotal role, but how long is this going to take to kind of play out, do you think?
I'm guessing a year, probably. And the problem with that is, in the meantime, the Obama administration is going to continue to ignore its own law and still give subsidies to people through the federal exchanges, and those people are going to have a rude awakening when the Supreme Court says that can't happen anymore.
Mm.
But, I mean, that's what happens when, I'm not being partisan when I say this. Obama's administration has just kind of gone on their own and been very rogue about their interpretation or non-interpretation of various laws. This is just one of them.
Okay, well, that leads me to kind of a follow-up question on that, and then Ron's got a question. On that note, conciliatory gestures by the president trying to work with the Republicans, as traditional lame ducks do, or do you think he's going to continue, as you put it, the rogue tactic to take unilateral executive action and just basically get in a bunker, just reinforce the bunker and do those type act, or a little bit of both? What do you think?
I think he will do a very little bit of both, but it will be for show. It won't be for real. I can see where Obama might soften his position on some of Michelle's food mandates for kids in schools, for example. I mean, the kids are starving in some of these schools now because they're just not feeding them anything,
Right.
But I think you're going to see this week and next week is the president makes his. I'm just referring to it as his defiance tour. I think you're going to see him go to a number of different Democratic hotbeds and basically draw a line in the sand and say, we're not going to give in here, because he, in his mind, first of all, he is an ideologue. He's the most idealistic president I've ever known. And I think he believes in what he's doing, and I don't think he's going to allow or try not to allow one election or two elections to stop him from his destiny. And so I think he's just going to keep moving forward.
How about the chosen 6 Democrats that it would take to override some of these issues that he's pushing for, Marty? I mean, if the Senate right now wants to override a veto, let's say, they need, 6 Democrats. Correct. Are they out That's there? Right. I'm hearing stories like there are some guys over there that are trying to work with the Republicans. Is that so?
Oh, I think so. I can't name them right now, but there's a couple of. I mean, it depends on the issue, frankly. But again, when I went through that list, Keystone, fast trade agreements, corporate tax reform, and medical device tax, softening of employer mandates, I think you can get a veto-proof majority. Beyond that, I'm not sure. And see, here's the other thing to keep in mind. It was a great midterm election. Oh, gosh, it was a great midterm election. But let's not overread that. Overreading the midterm election this time would be like overreading that the SEC is dead in football. Okay, we did. That's
a good analogy.
Well, it really is, because we did well, but we didn't take over the country. Okay, and so I think what's also going to happen, if I know my politics right, in the next Senate elections, I think you're going to have 7 Republicans up in districts that are in states where Obama won. So, there may not be as much aggression on the Republican side, even amongst Republicans, on stuff beyond those issues that I just ticked off to you, because they're going to have to face a re-election. And I think that based on demographics or voting patterns, the Democrats have a slight advantage in the Senate in 2016.
Well, let's do this, Marty. It's time to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you a little bit more about Speaker John Boehner, what's happening there, the likelihood, and get your take on that. You're listening to The Voice of Marty Connors, ladies and gentlemen, political analyst for our show, one of our favorites, and also president of the Birmingham International Center. Don't go away. We'll bring him and the show right back.
And darkness tries to hide. It trembles at his voice. It trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great.
This is Alexa Likas James with the Well House, and you're listening to American Heritage Live with Jeff DeShazo and Ron Meyer.
Birmingham is ranked in the top 10 for hottest housing markets for 2014. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, buying a second family home, or perhaps needing to downsize, be sure and call Sonny Maynor with Hometown Lenders. Sonny continuously operates from the core belief that exceeding expectations is the only way to do business. Sonny delivers this pledge through unsurpassed customer service. Using leading-edge technology, he can provide the most innovative and creative financing solutions available. At Hometown Lenders, Sonny makes sure that each customer receives the highest level of personalized service and communication throughout the entire loan process, guaranteed. If you like, you can even close your loan right in your own living room. Call Sonny Maynor today at 205-440-2444, 205-440-2444, or go to his website at 989-7171.com. With Sonny Maynor and Hometown Lenders, people before profits isn't just a catchphrase. It's the way they do business every day. Friends, have you been in a car accident recently and need to get some body work done, or do you need a new paint job for that favorite car? Then write this down. Homewood Auto Body Specialist. That's where you need to go. They are locally owned and have been in business for over 23 years. Brad Phillips is the owner and Hubert Underwood is the manager. Most of the staff have been with Brad for over 20 years. Homewood Auto Body Specialists are located at 96 Robert Jemison Road in Homewood. A member of the Better Business Bureau, they service foreign and domestic cars and are ICAR and ASE certified. And yes, they'll provide free estimates. Their equipment is state-of-the-art to handle all of your collision-related work, and the staff trains constantly to stay up to date with all the latest techniques. All services are guaranteed as long as you own your car. They are a direct repair facility and do business with most all insurance companies. They're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Call them today at 205-941-2410. 205-941-2410. That's Homewood Auto Body Specialists.
From the highest of heights to the depths of the sea, creation's revealing your majesty.
All right, welcome back into American Heritage Live. And don't forget, next week, our very special guest will be Congressman Spencer Backus. We've been trying to get him for a while, and Ron really helped us get him in, coming on board. So looking forward to that. So note that on your calendar. And again, want to remind you, if you want to catch up on any archive shows, just look for our YouTube tab on our Facebook page, American Heritage Live. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, write this number down, 205-223-7653. 205-223-7653. Be happy to talk to you. That's my number about being a sponsor of our show. Well, Marty, before the break, I was going to ask you to comment when we came back about, just go in a little more detail about the little kind of a small little rebellion against Speaker John Boehner. I think personally it'll fail, but just want to give you a sense of what's happening there and kind of how that's going to play out, because it is a little drama there.
Yeah, it's interesting drama. The 60, depending on whose polling you want to believe, and I think this is a fairly honest number, 60% of Republican voters would like to see a fresh face in that position. The problem is that once you are in Congress for a couple of terms, you've got yourself a good committee assignment, you're actually impacting your district. You don't want to necessarily risk all of that by voting against an incumbent speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the politics of it. So now you've got Louis Gohmert of Texas and now Ted Yoho of Florida, among others, throwing their hat in the ring. It will take 28 votes for it to get to a second ballot. Which, I think the best thing that could happen to the Republican Party is for it to get to a second ballot. I don't think Boehner is going to lose at all. But if it were to get to a second ballot, there would be some drama there, enough where it would add more attention to the frustration that a lot of us feel out here about people and who put process above principles in some cases. I'm not saying Boehner is not a conservative. I'm not saying that Mitch McConnell is not a conservative. I've had lunch multiple times with Mitch McConnell. I think if he could get away with things, he would do it. But they're, unfortunately, they're process people, okay? And so I really believe that McConnell at some point or another has told Boehner, I know you've got the biggest number of votes since World War II. I understand that. I know that you have the votes to probably change the colors of the country to green, purple, and blue, but don't send us anything over here to the Senate that we know we cannot pass.
Right.
Okay, that's probably what's going on. But anyway, so I think what's probably going to happen is they're going to have this little tussle. They're going to have somewhere around 20 votes cast, maybe a few more. Some say they've got up to 25. I don't know if that's true or not. But, knocking on the door of creating a second ballot would be wonderful. I don't think that's happened since 1925.
Well, that leads me to my next question, and that is, do you sense any more assertiveness on the part of Speaker John Boehner, assuming he will be reelected? Different tack he'll take, different tack, a little more assertive style and leadership. In other words, really begin to take that leadership bull by the horns, or do you think he's going to kind of continue in the same style he's had? What's your take on that?
Well, I think the results of this coup would have a lot to do with that. I mean, I can't stress strongly enough, Boehner has got so many votes, it's like you're standing there looking at Luxembourg with the Russian army behind you. I mean,
sure.
How hard is it to lead, But it's not. I don't think the problem with Boehner is so much that he doesn't want to do these things. I think it's the, God, I'm being repetitive, but I think it's the process over in the Senate where they know, they're afraid to pass something they know won't pass. And I think that's strategically a mistake because let's say, for example, they just voted to just completely defund Obamacare. It would die in the Senate, but by golly, we would get some key Senate votes out of it as well. And that's how you win elections, is getting people on record. For some reason, Boehner and McConnell don't want to do that.
Marty, let me ask you this: an independent voter right now, looking at the Republican Party, how would they respond to see a split in the Congress right now? I know as a Republican, if you're Tea Party background, you have certain ideals, certain things you want to see happen. But what about, and the reason I'm asking this, Marty, is because aren't people at a point now where they want to see stuff done and not bickering and pulling apart?
I think that's the mantra of the media, but I don't know that that's really the truth. There are two ideologies at play here. I'm going to answer this question shortly, but there's a part of this that you need to put in this puzzle to understand. But there are two radically opposed ideologies here. One's going to win and one's going to lose. There is no compromise on some of this stuff, okay? One side is collectivism, one side is free market, capitalism. And I'm being a bit exaggerative, but that's the realities of the situation. So one side's going to have to lose, and one side's going to have to win. Now, there are a lot of things that people can see happening that would make the Congress appear to be functioning, and I think McConnell is all obsessed about that. We want to get both things done, like this Keystone Pipeline, for example. And if that happens, then independents will be happy because they will think, oh, okay, well, they're doing something. But and by the way, I don't really believe when somebody tells me they're an independent, okay, that tells me one of two things. Either they're really a liberal in sheep's clothing and they want to act intellectual and above it all, or they're just too stupid to know what's going on. I really believe that.
I'm going to not respond to that, but let me ask you this, Marty. I'm starting to see some things coming out that reminds me of the old horse trading days. Where you want some legislation done, and the other side doesn't want it, but they want something else that you have that can help them. So, for instance, you talk about the Keystone Pipeline. The president has come out against it. He's talking about climate problems with that going through. But is there an area where it's not where it is possible to get that if you deal on another issue, perhaps?
Yeah, the problem is you don't know what you're dealing on. I mean, like in the example of Keystone, I genuinely can understand where some in Nebraska might be concerned about the sands, the sand lands of Nebraska, and I think that can be answered with good science. But if I'm a Democrat there, even if I'm a legislator there, I would object to the Keystone. Well, not me necessarily, but I can see where one would object to the Keystone Pipeline until you got whatever that is you want, and who knows what that is. I mean, it might be a VA building in your district. I don't know what the trade-off would be, but yes, I mean, there's a lot of horse trading. Remember, Obamacare would never have passed if it wasn't for horse trading.
That's right.
Within the Democratic Party. I mean, the Cornhusker kickback. So yeah, it is. It's just it's never it's never like the same thing. I mean, you're voting over here for something, and you're getting something over here that's totally unrelated.
All right, let me shift gears a little bit.
You can't trace them together,
No, yeah, I follow you. That was very good. I thought the analogy was good. Let me ask you this. I want to go back to immigration a little bit. I think the Republicans have a sense that Americans are tired and weary of that issue not being dealt with, and so I think there's going to be attempts made. But just let's take that one issue. How much do you think is going to how much of immigration reform, or however you want to compartmentalize that, is going to be tackled over the next year? In other words, how much progress there?
I think that really depends on who the Republican nominee is, because there are.
You're talking about presidential nominee?
Presidential nominee, yeah, because there are just gulfs of differences between a Ted Cruz
big time.
and a
huge
Marco Rubio, and
that's right,
and then a Jeb Bush. I mean, those are three different oceans of thought. So I think the nominee will kind of drive that. Do we need some form of immigration reform? Absolutely. Particularly, I'll never forget. I deal a lot with Europeans because of the Birmingham International Center, and when the Polish ambassador came here, he started lecturing me about immigration reform, that we need to have it. And I said, well, we've got 20 million Mexicans sitting at the border, and he goes, exactly, and we cannot swim across the damn Atlantic. So, there are legitimate beasts for changes in our visa processes and so on, but not to necessarily reward a single race of people.
No, and it's it's heartbreaking, a lot of it. You can't forget the human element involved, but we are a nation of laws, and like it or not, people do want their government officials to enforce and enact laws and uphold them, and let there be consequences when laws are broken.
I don't see why we can't have an extended worker visa program, but not a pathway to citizenship. That's just begging for it. And the truth is, and some people that listen to this is not going to like what I'm going to say, but it's true. Most immigrants, including my great-grandfather, was a Democrat when they first come here because they're looking for a new life and they're seeing benefits that they would have otherwise not had. But most of them assimilate into the culture within one or two generations, and then they start changing their voting pattern. Well, in this case, it's a little different because I think the Democratic Party, and particularly the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, is so dependent upon dependency that if they'll import it.
That's right.
They'll import dependency, and that's what they're basically doing. I don't know that they really give a rat's about Hispanic people per se. I think they see 5 to 20 million voters is what they're seeing.
All right, Marty. On the other side of our break, we'll be going into our second segment with Marty Connors. You're listening to the voice of Marty Connors. He is our political analyst on our show, and he is also president of the Birmingham International Center and also chairman of the Irish Cultural Society. When we come back, let's get you into that a little bit. We can't let you finish the show, Marty, without giving us something of why the Irish culture is so endearing.
One joke. That's all we're asking for.
Well, he may not be able to
Marty.
tell a joke, but he can tell us why the Irish culture is
joke.
endearing or something. All right, you're listening to American Heritage Live. Everybody keep it here. And don't forget you can stream the show live at 977thepeach.com. Keep it here.
This is Buddy Gray, pastor of Hunter Street Baptist Church. You're listening to American Heritage Live with Jeff DeShazo and Ron Meyer.
Where do you go to order a property title or schedule a closing on a home? Call Jason Ingram, closing agent and account executive with USA Title of Alabama. USA handles property searches statewide and can close loans at your home or work, the agent's office, or a point in between. You'll love their website where you can monitor your transaction 24 hours a day using their Sure Close technology. And you can also print off documents needed for your closing. At USA, they are dedicated to providing superior service when searching property records, serving as escrow and closing agent, and issuing title insurance for their customers. USA is also a great asset for buyers and sellers and real estate agents that are looking for a flexible partner that can close anywhere. Call Jason Ingram today with USA Title of Alabama at 205-876-1560. 205-876-1560 for your title and closing needs. Or just go to their website at usatitleal.com.
No repair, no hurt or pain, no suffering. You hold me now, you hold me now, and no darkness, no sin.
And welcome back in, everyone, to American Heritage Live. If you're driving out and about on Sunday morning, going to a brunch or to and from church, keep it right here for the next part of our last segment with Marty Connors. our favorite political analyst on our show, and also president of the Birmingham International, chairman. Now, a sinner. Now,
Wait. Excuse me. Did you say our favorite political analyst?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's just today.
What do you
that's
think?
Today. Next
Marty,
week it could change.
All things to all people.
And the verdict's still out for the rest of the show. Now,
Go ahead.
Now, as far as Marty's also, he's chairman of the Irish Cultural Society. Now, Marty.
Right. Yes.
Let's get us into the weeds now. What is the Irish Culture Society? What do you do? Now, why is that culture so endearing to the American people? Help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, well, the Birmingham Irish Cultural Society has been around. This will be our 35th consecutive year.
Goodness.
Yeah, we're somewhere around St. Patrick's Day. We'll throw a dinner party, and it's for various charities. Here of late, the last several years, we've been giving all our proceeds to Kid One Transport, which transports poor children to dialysis or cancer treatment or whatever, who otherwise do not have transportation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. It's an authentic Irish music, Irish dance, Irish, food, the whole bit. So, and then we're also the ones who have led the parade through downtown Birmingham and Five Points for the last 30 years. And the economic impact of that parade is now pretty impressive. According to the REV, which is the Downtown Action sort of economic development group, St. Patrick's Day is now the number one retail day for 5 Points South throughout the year, including New Year's Eve.
How about that?
We're very proud of that.
I did not know that. I just learned that. That is awesome. Well, hats off to you, and I appreciate your leadership there. One thing about Marty, he's got his irons in several fires, so I'm glad that you told our listeners what you're up to, because they always take a personal interest in our guests. Now, let's go international a minute. Falling oil prices, they're going to have an effect, and they are having an effect. There's concern about Russia and Iran and maybe Venezuela. What is your take on the reaction of these countries and how those falling oil prices are going to translate to our country, what the impact is going to be?
Oh, well, if you've got 3 hours, we can really get into it.
Yeah, I know.
But to make it sort of simple, I think that it's a multi-layered problem. First of all, I love gas prices below $2. Don't get me wrong.
Oh man, yeah.
But when oil prices drop about below $70 per barrel, that really affects the Russian ruble. And when that happens, then Russia tends to get more aggressive, and so that's when they start looking outward for expansion. The same thing applies to a different degree in the Middle East. I think what's going on there is that the Saudis are fearful of Iran building the nuke, and so therefore they're punishing Iran. Iran also has about a $60 threshold of near bankruptcy if they don't get that much per barrel. And so the Saudis are artificially pumping the market with oil to keep Iran at bay. All of that benefits the American consumer, but in the long run could add to world instability.
Outside of Russia, and of course Russia is a big play here, Marty, my big concern is Iran and negotiations with Iran. Are we giving up too much? The falling oil prices, how that's impacting on them, the sanctions, all of the stories we're hearing about a deal that can be made. Is there going to be a deal made or not? What do we have to give up? I mean, what would they actually give up? And is there still that threat of that nuclear power there?
It's one of these things where, oh man, and I don't want anybody mad at me, okay? I think, there's a point. It's kind of, boy, I hate to use football analogies, but we'll be doing this.
Go ahead. That's a good analogy to use.
When you're a running back, and you've got it's a rush play. You have to hit the hole right when the hole opens.
Right.
Okay. Now, because if you're slow in developing the play, the defense reads it and it closes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the same thing applies with Iran and the nuclear device. Because of our chilly relationship, and not ours. Let me rephrase that. Because of Obama's personal chilly relationship with Netanyahu, I think that, I hate to say this, but I think the cat's out of the bag. I think they've probably gone as far as we can go. Whereas 4 years ago, maybe, a limited Israeli strike backed by the U.S., perhaps, and Saudis and some others might have derailed that. Now, what we're doing, because we've allowed ISIS to start to grow because we pulled our troops out of Iraq too quickly, now we're actually having to depend, or hinting that we're depending on, the very people that we're trying to stop from building a nuclear weapon. I don't have your answer, but I think we've waited too long.
Yes, reluctantly, I have to agree. I think we have diddled and piddled and given and given. I don't understand that. I know the State Department has their own culture. They like to maintain the status quo. They're lifers. They just keep those guys in there. They have their own mentality. I just do not understand the rope we keep giving. I don't understand it. When the threat is real, I don't understand the constant reining in of Israel and not being allowed to defend herself. But there's such an animus now between our government and Israel, you can't blame them for, taking unilateral action themselves.
No, and if they do, I mean, I say more power to them, because I thought this was going to happen right after the election.
I did too.
But it never did. I think if Romney had won, Israel might have gone ahead and made a move, and then Romney would have severely scolded them and winked and said thanks.
Right. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Here's some more money.
Yeah. Right.
Here's some more money. Develop more weapons.
I don't mean to be pessimistic. I just don't know how you stop it now. It's just one of those things, particularly when you've got ISIS crawling all over everywhere like a cancer, and you're depending to some degree on Iran's intelligence and perhaps at some point the military. I mean, it's just it's bogged down.
All right. Well, let's go back to the presidential race. As off air, we were discussing this by email, that I've never seen such a large field of Republican contenders or potential contenders for the 2016 election. Give us your take on I know this may be a little fluid, but let's say your top 5-7 candidates, or you can say 5 if you like, of who you think is going to be in the running.
I think I can give you 9.
That's fair.
Yeah,
but I'll be fast.
There's only 300 people in the field right now. So.
Let me just make this real clear. I'm the only Republican that is not considering the race. But anyway,
make a note of that, Ron.
Marty
Connor is out.
I'm out.
Was that the Irish joke? No, it was just all right. I'm only kidding.
I got one for you before we leave. But anyway,
okay.
The late great Lee Atwater referred to this period of time as the invisible primary, and what that is when everyone is starting to position themselves, talk to different people, make visits, go to places you would never expect them to go to make speeches to people they've never seen before. This is the time when everybody starts worrying about schools in Iowa and New Hampshire. Okay,
right.
Okay, so I would know this. I can't pigeonhole anybody. Everybody's unique and different, but generally speaking, I would say there's 3 or maybe 4 segments of the Republican Party, and these are not fair terms, okay, but I'm going to use them anyway. You have sort of the establishment wing, okay? That's the wing that can raise the most money most quickly, and I would put Bush, Christie, and maybe to a great degree Rubio in that wing, although Rubio has different tentacles. Then you have the fastest growing wing in the Republican Party these days would be the Libertarian/Tea Party sort of wing, and that would certainly be Rand Paul. And then you've got your traditional conservatives, which would kind of split out into 2 different groups: your fiscal group and then your social group. So I would put in Huckabee, Walker, Cruz, and Perry, and that sort of pile. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to have Iowa, which usually produces an establishment and then a conservative. You're going to have New Hampshire, which tends to produce an establishment.
Right.
Then you're going to have South Carolina, which tends to produce a conservative. And here's something your listeners may not be aware of. This has started in Tennessee and Georgia, but it's going to be introduced in Alabama, according to Senator Cam Ward and Representative Jack Williams. Probably Louisiana, Arkansas, and then may even bleed into Florida and Texas. And that is the March 1st, what the Georgia Secretary of State loosely refers to this as the SEC primary. In other words, a big Super Tuesday is being considered by the various party leaderships and legislature. So what could happen is the South that has been, we are not the Republican Party, but we certainly are the offensive line of the Republican Party, kind of being cliche. But anyway, or you can have Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and then a mega Southern influence. And out of that mega Southern influence, that's where I think your traditional conservative could come from. You would think off the bat it would be Huckabee, but I would say, and to go out on a limb, I would say the perfect candidate for us would be a Midwesterner, preferably a governor from a swing state. And that guy right now, for me, would probably be Scott Walker.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say Ohio with Kasich, except for the fact that Kasich was one of the few Republican governors that actually put together a state exchange in favor of Obamacare. So that's probably the kiss of death in the South.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, a Scott Walker, he's not flashy, he's kind of, there he is, but he's been fire tested, and I think I can see if he can raise the money, he might go a long way in this process.
Quickly, because Ron's got a question. A follow-up to that. I agree, by the way, on Scott Walker. The reason why I think Scott potentially, no pun intended, is a winner is because he has been tested. He has run as himself.
Every other weekend he's on the ballot.
And he wins. He wins every one of them.
Right.
So he is a winner. Ted Cruz, just quick comment, and this is the way I think. Ted Cruz sounds whiny. He's got a nasally, whiny tone. Americans don't like that. They don't like it, and that's an odd comment, I know, but they don't like that sound he makes. They like his policy, but not his voice. That will wear them out. Ben Carson, great common sense guy. People are captivated by him, but he's just not electric. He comes across as very low key. That's why I'm thinking he may wind up being maybe a VP candidate.
I
VP candidate.
Cabinet. I don't even see him as VP. I think he's a novelty, candidate.
Okay.
And so that's the way I sort of look at him.
That's a good way of putting it, novelty candidate.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Republicans killed each other in their primaries last time around with the debates. You remember the debates, unending debates. How's that going to change this time? One. The other part, of course, is this, you mentioned Walker. Nationally, he's not really well known, is he?
No, that's the problem. He's, even though, those of us who are political junkies, follow all of this. And that, and boy, this is another thing your listeners are not going to like hearing, but it's the truth, okay? If you can't raise $20 or $30 million, you ought not even try, okay? And so, well, that's probably an exaggeration, but the truth is it takes a lot of money to get around and about. And so, Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and the southern states, and then on to, some of the Midwestern states. It's expensive stuff, guys. Mm. And so when you have 14 candidates in a race, who does that benefit? But it benefits the Bushes, the ones who immediately have an infrastructure in place. Bush was here. I'm not going to mention the name, but there was a couple of key Romney finance people here in the state that Jeb Bush found a reason about a month and a half ago to go visit their office and make a speech. I never knew Jeb, cared that much about Birmingham. All of a sudden,
well,
if you raise a few $1 billion for a presidential candidate, you're going to get a visit.
Absolutely, you will. And money will do that. Strange effect how money has.
Yeah.
What about the debates though? Coming up.
One thing I tell you, Rand Previs, he's had his detractors, but one of the things that he's done well is they're going to limit the number of Republican debates. I don't know the number, but I think last time they had like 47.
Sure.
I'm exaggerating, of course, but I can see maybe 4 or 5 max, and that's it. Because the other part about debates that aren't any good is when you have 10 to 14 candidates, you're not getting anything accomplished. Each one of them has one line to say and then a zinger about somebody else, and you get nowhere with it. So they're probably going to have, just a smaller number this time.
Yeah.
And by the way, when they get to the general, I can assure you Candy Crowley will not be hosting.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever she is.
Yeah, please no.
Right.
All right, now, Democrats, got a question to you. What candidate can seriously challenge Hillary Clinton? I know she can overcome the missteps that she is prone to do, the foot in the mouth. Right. Elizabeth Warren seems to be too much of a fringe liberal darling.
Well, yeah, that's from your perspective.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You've got to think in the context of an Iowa or a New Hampshire.
Okay.
Leftist,
All right, so tell us how you think it'll go.
Well, I still think Hillary's got all the infrastructure. I mean, that's what it's about, But yeah, I mean, Hillary's this is amazing. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, I mean, these people are not on the map. I mean, as far as their ideology goes, yet they're being seriously considered. I mean, they actually would make Hillary look moderate, which might actually be something that she wants. But I'll remind you that Barack Obama came out of nowhere and beat her.
Right.
But I don't see Elizabeth Warren really running very well, although she would do well up in the New Hampshire areas. So Hillary's biggest challenge is Hillary herself. I mean, it's at some point she's going to have to run on something other than her chromosome composition, and she's going to have to explain. She's going to have to explain her 4 years as Secretary of State. I mean, another, tired football sort of analogy here is if you're the lead recruitment coach for a college football team for 4 years, and you retire after 4 years, you cannot complain about the performance of the fifth-year team. I mean, those are your players. You recruited them. Just like the policies that Obama has enacted has been recruited or enacted by Hillary. These are her policies as well. And so the whole Arab Spring, Ukraine, all of that is something that she's going to have to explain. It's a heck of a lot deeper than just Benghazi.
Yeah, and those we've got about 1 minute left, Marty, with you, but those committees are still chugging along, in silence. Those congressional committees, and they're not going away.
They're not, and they're going to have a little bit more authority when we become a majority tomorrow. I also, you have to be careful on stuff like that because you can be totally right, but then just kind of annoy the public.
Doesn't play well.
Yeah, it looks like a witch hunt, even though you're really not witch hunting. I mean, there's some serious bones in the basement you got to get to, but there's a certain tolerance, and you have to wonder when you've reached that point of excess or you've overstayed your welcome.
One of the reports I did read was that there will be more investigations. I think you're right, Marty. I think people are getting weary unless there's a real bombshell that could be exposed. I thought the IRS investigation was going to play out well, but it hasn't. You don't even hear about it anymore, do you?
No, I mean, and that's horrific. But and if anything, people can, Benghazi. It was horrific, but I'm not sure that the average person out there can necessarily relate to it, because it's just this faraway place, and 4 people died, and it's horrific. But all of us get a letter from the IRS, so that's something that comes home. I mean, that's something that sits on the kitchen table, and so you would think it would be something people would relate more personally to. So, and they have, but obviously the last election reflected that, but still, you got to get some meat on those bones, or people are going to get tired of it.
All right, real fast, Marty, give us your best Irish impact.
Here it comes, everybody.
I can't give you my best Irish, but I will say the Irish are the one race of people that actively embellish and embrace their own stereotype. But the joke would be the difference between an Irishman and an Englishman. Okay, an Englishman will go to a party and leave without telling the host goodbye. An Irishman will go to a party, tell the host goodbye, and never leave.
Okay.
Marty, as always, it's been a great joy having you.
Thanks, Marty.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. We'll be calling, so keep that phone line open. You're listening to the voice of Marty Connors, one of our favorite political analysts. He's also president of the Birmingham International Center, also chairman of the Irish Cultural Society. So keep in touch with him. Google him. Keep track of Marty. You'll want to follow his life and career. Marty, thanks again, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Marty.
All right, folks, you're listening to the final minute of American Heritage Live, and you can find out what's happening on our Facebook page. That's American Heritage Live. on Facebook, and you can use the YouTube chat tab to keep up with the archive shows. And again, next week, don't forget to note that Congressman Spencer Backus will be our very special guest, looking back over his life and career and giving us his perspective. Thanks again to our sponsors, Jim King of Hedges and Highways Ministry, Brad Phillips with Homewood Auto Body Specialist, Sonny Maynard with Hometown Lenders, Jason Ingram with USA Title of Alabama, and myself, Jeff DeShaza with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. We'll be back next week at the same time, 11 to 12, right here on 97.7 The Peach. And share our Facebook page and give us your thoughts, if you would. So long, everybody.